The wind screamed across the white plains of Aurelia. Snow fell endlessly, covering everything in cold silence. The sky was dark, heavy with clouds, and lightning flashed far away, like the heartbeat of a dying world. Through that deadly storm, a young alien woman walked slowly, her body shaking with pain and cold. Her name was Alara. Her skin was pale blue, almost glowing under the faint light. In her trembling arms, she held two tiny newborn babies, wrapped in a torn piece of cloth. They were her daughters, her little twin girls, and they were all she had left. Behind her, the snow carried the marks of many footsteps, but they were fading fast. Those footsteps belonged to her own people, her tribe. They had left her to die. To them, twins were a curse, a sign of bad luck, a reason to fear the gods. When the twins were born, the elders had whispered, "She has broken the balance. Cast her out." Alara had begged them to show mercy. She had cried, "Please, they are only children, my children." But her voice was lost in the wind, and her people turned away, their faces cold and empty. Now, alone in the snow, Alara walked through the storm. Her feet sank deep into the frozen ground. Every breath burned her lungs. Her vision blurred. She could barely see. The babies cried softly. Their cries were weak, but in that frozen wasteland, they were the only sound of life. Alara looked down at them, her tears freezing on her cheeks. "Don't cry, my loves. Mother is here." She tried to keep moving, but her legs gave way. She fell to her knees. The cold bit through her clothes like knives. Her heart pounded slower and slower. She looked up at the sky, a sky that seemed to have forgotten the sun, and for the first time she whispered to the stars, "If there is anyone out there, please help us." For a moment there was nothing, only silence and snow. Then through the thick storm something moved in the distance. A light, a strange golden light cutting through the blizzard like a blade. Alara squinted. The light grew brighter. It wasn't lightning, it was a ship, a shape of metal and fire descending from the clouds. She gasped. Her weak heart beat faster. It was not one of her people's ships. This one looked different, smooth, shining, and powerful. As the ship landed nearby, the snow blew outward in a fierce circle. Alara tried to lift herself but collapsed again. Her eyes closed, her body too weak to move. The ship's door opened with a hiss. A tall figure stepped out. A human wearing a heavy armor suit, glowing faintly with blue light. He scanned the area through his helmet visor. His voice came through the wind. Life signs detected. Too small. One adult. He ran toward her. The snow crunched under his boots. When he reached her, he knelt down quickly. He saw the babies first, small, blue-skinned, and crying weakly. Then he looked at their mother, her pulse faint, her lips blue from the cold. He pressed a button on his suit. "This is Commander Ryan Hale. I found survivors, but they're not human." His robot companion hovered beside him, blinking red lights. "Commander," the robot warned, "contact with alien species is forbidden. Terran Law Section 43. Ryan cut him off. "I don't care about laws right now. They're dying." He took off one glove and touched the alien girl's cheek. Her skin was ice cold, her breath barely there. He quickly opened a thermal blanket and wrapped all three of them inside. Alara's eyes fluttered open for a second. Through the blur, she saw his face, the strange creature from the stars, eyes full of concern. "Who?" she whispered, her voice weak as the wind. Ryan smiled softly, though she couldn't understand him. "You're safe now. I've got you." Alara tried to speak again, but only managed a faint whisper. "My daughters, please, save them." Then her head fell back. Her arms went limp. Ryan looked at the babies, still crying softly, their tiny hands glowing faintly under the blanket. He picked them up gently. "You're going to be okay," he said. "I promise," the robot buzzed beside him. "Commander, we must return to orbit. The storm is intensifying," Ryan nodded. He lifted Alara into his arms, then carried her and the twins back toward the ship. The engines roared as the hatch closed behind them. As the ship rose into the stormy sky, the human looked down at the planet below, endless, white, and deathly silent. He whispered to himself, "Who could abandon them like this?" Inside the medical bay, he placed Alara on a bed and covered her in heating blankets. The two babies were placed in a warm capsule beside her. Ryan watched them, their tiny hands reaching out even in their sleep. Something inside him stirred. a feeling he hadn't known in years. Compassion. Purpose. Maybe this was why he came to the stars. Not for glory. Not for orders, but for life. Outside, the storm faded. The ship vanished into the clouds. And far below, the snow continued to fall over the footprints of a tribe that would never know what they had lost. The storm outside had ended, but inside the ship, silence felt even louder. Commander Ryan Hale stood beside the medical bed, his helmet off, his breath slow and heavy. The alien girl, Alara, lay unconscious under a thick heating blanket. Beside her, 2 tiny newborns rested inside a small glass pod, glowing softly in their sleep. Ryan watched the readings on the screen. Weak, unstable, but alive. Temperature rising, heart rate returning, said his robotic assistant, Aura, floating nearby with soft blue lights. Ryan exhaled, a small smile crossing his face. Good, they made it. He leaned closer to the twins. Their skin shimmered like faint blue crystal, and their eyes flickered beneath closed lids. You're strong, little ones, he whispered. Stronger than anyone who left you out there. Aura beeped in warning. Commander, contact with unknown biologicals violates Galactic Law. Terran Command must be informed. Ryan frowned. They're children, Aura. I'm not reporting this to a bunch of politicians who will tell me to let them die. Disobedience will result in termination of your command, the robot said in its cold tone. Ryan smirked bitterly. Yeah, I know. But maybe it's time someone broke a rule. He looked back at Alara. Her chest rose and fell slowly. A faint mark glowed across her collarbone, a pattern of light like a star map. Ryan had never seen anything like it. What are you, Alara? He muttered. The ship vibrated suddenly in a signal from orbit control. This is Commander Arlen of the Terran Outpost. A voice echoed through the comms. Hale, your ship was off course during storm recon. Report your findings. Ryan hesitated. He glanced at Alara and the twins, then pressed the comm. Just weather data and mineral samples, he lied smoothly. Nothing biological. Understood, the voice replied. Dock immediately for debrief. Ryan cut the signal and sighed. They're going to scan the ship when I dock. If they find her... He didn't finish the thought. He didn't need to. Alara stirred weakly, her hand moving toward the light. Her eyes opened, large and bright, reflecting both fear and confusion. She looked around, breathing fast. When she saw Ryan, she froze, pressing back against the wall. Her voice trembled. Where am I? Ryan raised both hands slowly. It's okay. You're safe. You were dying out there. I brought you aboard. She didn't understand his words, but she felt his tone. Gentle, calm. When he handed her a small pouch of warm liquid, she hesitated before drinking. The warmth spread through her and her shaking stopped. Then she looked around frantically and searching. Her eyes fell on the glass pod. Her babies. She rushed toward it, touching the surface with trembling hands. When she saw them sleeping peacefully, she began to cry, silent tears running down her glowing skin. Ryan looked away, giving her a moment. He'd seen soldiers cry, but never like that. Never with so much love and relief in a single breath. When she finally turned to him, she said softly, "Thank you." Ryan didn't understand the words, but he understood the feeling. He nodded. "You're welcome." Aura interrupted, voice sharp. "Commander, we are approaching the outpost. Docking in 60 seconds. Ryan's heart tensed. He looked at the woman, then the babies. If the Terran officers found them, they would be taken away, studied, maybe destroyed. Galactic Law was clear. No alien life from undeveloped worlds shall be rescued, aided, or transported. He remembered how many times he had followed orders, watched planets burn, watched life erased for safety. Not this time. He tapped a code on the control panel. Aura, activate private cargo hold. Commander, that section is restricted. Explain purpose. Medical quarantine, he said. Level 5. Aura paused for a moment, processing. Understood. The floor opened beneath the medical bay and a small hidden chamber revealed itself. Ryan carefully lifted the pod with the twins and carried it down. Alara tried to rise, but her legs were weak. He looked at her and said softly, "Stay quiet. No one can know you're here." Though she couldn't understand his words, she saw his eyes, and somehow she trusted him. She nodded. Moments later, the ship connected to the docking bay with a metallic thud. The sound echoed through the hull, Ryan adjusted his uniform and stepped out. Two officers met him immediately. "Commander Hale," one said. "You were off route." "Any findings?" "Just frozen rock and bad weather," Ryan replied, keeping his face calm. They scanned him, then the ship. The scanners passed dangerously close to the hidden chamber. Ryan's heart pounded. The machine beeped once, then turned green. "Clear," the officer said. "You're free to go." Ryan forced a smile and walked away quickly. Back inside, Aura hovered beside him. "That was risky, Commander. If discovered, I'll take the blame," Ryan interrupted. "They don't deserve to pay for being born." He walked down to the hidden room again. Alara was awake now, holding her twins close, her eyes full of wonder and fear. Ryan sat beside her. For a moment there was only silence. The quiet hum of the ship. He spoke softly. "I don't know your world or your laws, but I know this: no one deserves to die alone in the snow." Alara looked at him, the strange human with tired eyes and a kind heart, and whispered a word from her own language. It meant hope. Ryan didn't understand it, but somehow, he felt it. He looked at the stars outside the viewport and whispered, "I'll protect you, all of you, even if it means breaking every law in the galaxy." And with that promise, a new chapter began. One that would change not just their lives, but the fate of two worlds. The Terran outpost floated above the icy world like a silent metal fortress. Its lights flickered through the endless dark of space, surrounded by rings of debris and frozen moons. Inside, everything was order, rules, and silence. But Commander Ryan Hale carried a secret that could destroy all of that. Hidden deep within his ship's cargo chamber, Alara and her twin newborns lay wrapped in warmth and shadow. They were safe, for now. Ryan sat alone in the captain's quarters, staring at his reflection in the black glass window. His own tired eyes looked back at him. A soldier's eyes, trained to follow orders, not question them. But now, everything had changed. Aura, his robotic assistant, floated near the ceiling, humming softly. "Commander," it said, breaking the silence, "you must report the presence of the alien survivors to Terran Command within the next cycle." Ryan didn't answer. He rubbed his forehead, lost in thought. "Commander," Aura repeated, "failure to report alien life constitutes treason under Galactic Code 7. He finally looked up. "You think I don't know that?" His voice was low, almost a growl. He stood up and paced across the room. "They were left to die, Aura. A mother and two babies. You call that justice? You call that law?" The robot paused, its lights flickering. "Justice is not relevant." "Law is," Ryan laughed bitterly. "Then maybe the law is wrong." A silence filled the room, the kind that feels heavier than gravity. Down in the cargo bay, Alara stirred awake. She opened her eyes slowly, feeling the hum of the human ship around her. The air was warmer now, cleaner than the cold storms of her home. She looked at her daughters, the tiny twins glowing faintly beside her, and smiled weakly. She touched the smooth walls, whispering something in her language. It was a prayer, a thank you to the stars for sending a stranger who cared. Just then, the metal door hissed open. Ryan stepped inside quietly, holding a tray of food. Alara sat up, frightened for a second, but he raised his hands to calm her. "It's okay," he said gently. "Food. Safe." She didn't understand his words, but she felt his tone, calm, kind, human. He placed the tray beside her, warm broth and a soft cloth for her babies. When she tried to thank him, he only smiled. "You don't need to say it." But even as they shared that quiet moment, danger was moving closer. A red light blinked on Ryan's communicator. "Incoming transmission, Admiral Corvin, Galactic Authority." Ryan sighed. "Here we go." He stepped out of the cargo room and accepted the call. The hologram of the Admiral appeared, tall, stern, eyes like polished steel. "Commander Hale," the Admiral said. "Your last mission log was incomplete. Your sensors recorded 3 unidentified life signals. Explain." Ryan's pulse quickened. "Interference from the storm, sir." "False readings," the Admiral narrowed his eyes. "False readings, again?" "Yes, sir," Ryan replied, keeping his face blank. The Admiral leaned forward. "You know the law, Commander. Any discovery of intelligent alien life must be reported immediately, especially on undeveloped planets. Yes, sir, Ryan said again. Good, the Admiral replied coldly, because the last officer who broke that law spent 10 years in cryo-prison for treason. The hologram vanished. Ryan stood there, silent, his jaw tight. He could almost feel the invisible chains of the law tightening around him. He turned to Aura. Delete all life signal data from the last mission. Commander, the robot replied. This action is illegal. Ryan glared. So is letting a mother freeze to death. Aura hesitated for a long second, then obeyed. Data deleted. Later that night, Ryan went back to the cargo bay. Ilara sat quietly, humming a soft melody to her sleeping twins. It was a song from a world he would never understand, but it filled the cold air with warmth. He leaned against the wall and listened. Beautiful, he said softly. Ilara looked up, her glowing eyes meeting his. She didn't know the word, but she smiled anyway. Ryan looked at the twins. They'll need names, he said, half to himself. Can't keep calling them little ones. He pointed at the first baby, her tiny hands reaching toward the light. Lyra, he said. Then he pointed at the other, sleeping peacefully. And Nira. Ilara watched him repeating softly, Lyra, Nira. Her voice made the name sound like magic. Ryan smiled, a rare softness in his battle-hardened face. Yeah, that fits. But his brief peace was shattered by the sound of an alarm. Warning, unauthorized life form detected. His heart stopped. He ran to the control panel, a red light flashing near the cargo section. The outpost scanners had detected movement on his ship. Aura's voice echoed, Commander, patrol units are approaching your hangar for inspection. Ryan's blood ran cold. They can't find them. Not now. He turned to Ilara, his voice urgent. Quiet, hide, don't move. Though she didn't understand his words, she felt the fear in his tone. She clutched her babies tightly and ducked behind the storage crates. The metal doors opened. 2 officers stepped in, their flashlights sweeping the room. Routine scan, one said. Commander Hale's log showed anomalies. Ryan forced a calm smile. You really think I'm hiding aliens in my ship? I just got back from a storm zone. They scanned the room. The beam of light came dangerously close to Ilara's hiding spot. Ryan stepped forward, blocking the view. You done? He asked sharply. The officer looked at him suspicious. For now. They left. Ryan waited until the sound of their boots disappeared. Then he turned back toward the crates. Ilara slowly stood up, holding her babies, her eyes wide with fear. Ryan walked over and whispered, It's okay. You're safe. For now. He looked at the door, knowing it wouldn't stay closed forever. The law was closing in. And for the first time, Ryan realized something terrifying. Saving them wasn't just illegal. It was war against everything the galaxy believed in. The night sky above the Terran outpost was filled with light. Not the soft glow of stars, but the sharp eyes of machines. Dozens of patrol drones circled in silence, scanning every ship, every shadow. And hidden among those shadows was Commander Ryan Hale, preparing for the biggest risk of his life. He moved quietly through the dark hangar, his steps slow and sure. Inside his ship, the Odyssey, he had sealed Ilara and her twin daughters in a hidden chamber, a space lined with heat shields and silence panels. They couldn't afford to be found. Not now. Engines ready, said Aura, his robot assistant, voice low but steady. Ryan nodded. Power down external lights. We're leaving without clearance. Commander, Aura warned, this action will be marked as desertion. Ryan's jaw tightened. Then let them call me a deserter. I'm done following blind laws. The engines hummed softly, then roared to life, shaking the hangar walls. Alarms blared almost instantly. Red lights flashed across the deck. Unauthorized launch detected, a voice shouted through the loudspeakers. Ryan slammed his hand on the throttle. Hold on. The Odyssey blasted forward, bursting through the hangar doors into open space. A trail of blue flame lit the void behind it. Gunfire followed, energy blasts streaking across the darkness. Ryan weaved between them, his eyes sharp, his hands steady. Aura, activate evasive mode. Evasive mode active, the robot replied. The ship tilted sharply, rolling between laser beams and floating debris. In the hidden chamber below, Ilara clutched her babies tightly as the ship shook violently. The twins began to cry, their small bodies glowing faintly in the dark. Ilara whispered to them softly. Shh. It's all right, my stars. He will save us. Hours passed before the silence returned. The ship drifted far from the outpost, hiding behind the shadow of a dead moon. Ryan finally exhaled and leaned back in his seat. His heart was still racing. Aura hovered beside him. We have escaped the patrol perimeter. However, Command has issued a bounty on your name. Ryan chuckled bitterly. Figures. From soldier to criminal in one night. He stood up and walked to the lower deck. When the chamber door opened, Ilara looked up, fear and hope mixing in her glowing eyes. It's okay, Ryan said softly. We're safe. For now. She didn't understand his words, but she saw the calm in his eyes and nodded. One of the twins, the smaller one, reached her hand toward Ryan. He smiled, touching her tiny fingers carefully. Hey there, little one. You've got a strong grip. The baby laughed softly, a sound that melted through the metal walls of the ship. For a brief moment, the war, the laws, the danger, all of it, felt far away. But peace never lasts long in the galaxy. Aura interrupted with a sudden beep. Commander, incoming transmission detected. It's encrypted, not Terran. Ryan frowned. Put it on. The screen flickered, showing a tall alien figure cloaked in silver armor. His voice was deep and harsh. Human, he said. You have something that belongs to us. Ryan's face hardened. Who is this? I am Vorak, High Warlord of Aurelia, the alien growled. You took the outcast. The cursed mother and her abominations. Return them and I may spare your life. Ryan's fists clenched. You call them abominations? They're children. Vorak's eyes glowed red. They carry power not meant for mortals. The prophecy must be silenced. The signal cut out. Ryan turned to Aura. Trace that signal. Origin, Vorelia's moon fortress, Aura replied. Approximately 2 standard systems away. Ryan looked toward the stars. They won't stop hunting her. He walked back to the chamber. Ilara watched him enter, sensing the tension in his movements. He sat beside her and said quietly, Your people are coming. She couldn't understand, but she saw it in his face. Danger. Her breath trembled. She looked down at her daughters and whispered a soft phrase in her language. Ryan knelt in front of her. Listen, Ilara, I don't know your words, but I know what they mean. You love them. You'd die for them. He paused, then said, So would I. He placed a small metallic charm in her hand. His old Terran military badge. It bore the human emblem. A rising sun over the earth. For luck, he said with a faint smile. Ilara looked at the badge, her glowing eyes softening. She didn't know the word luck, but she understood the meaning. She pressed it to her heart. Later that night, as the ship sailed quietly through the black sea of stars, Ilara began to speak in her language, telling Ryan her story through gestures and drawings on the metal wall. She drew the symbol of her tribe, then a mark of 2 stars, the twins. She pointed to her daughters and said a word again and again, Aelnar. Ryan asked softly, Aelnar? What does it mean? She placed a hand on her daughters' heads and whispered, Light. Ryan's eyes widened. Light. He remembered the twins glowing when they cried, the way their energy shimmered through the room. What kind of power do you have, little lights? He murmured. Aura interrupted again. Commander, fuel reserves are low. We must dock soon. Ryan nodded. Plot a course to the nearest neutral station. He looked at Ilara. We'll keep moving until it's safe. I promise. As the stars stretched into long silver lines, the ship jumped to light speed. Behind them, both the Galactic Authority and the Vorelian Empire began their hunt. Across countless systems, warnings spread. The human who broke the law. The alien who carries the twins of prophecy. Ryan didn't know it yet, but his small act of kindness, saving 1 mother and 2 newborns, was about to ignite something much larger. A storm was coming, and this time, the whole galaxy would feel it. The Odyssey drifted through the cold dark of space, its engines quiet, its lights dimmed to hide from scanners. Inside, the air was tense, too quiet, too heavy. Commander Ryan Hale hadn't slept in days. He sat in the pilot's chair, staring at the stars beyond the glass. His mind replayed the same thoughts again and again, the twins' glowing eyes, Ilara's quiet fear and the warning from Vorelia's warlord. Return them, or die. Ryan had faced enemies before, pirates, rebels, warlords. But this was different. This time he wasn't fighting for orders. He was fighting for something pure, something right. But across the galaxy, someone else was watching him. Far away on the Terran outpost, Admiral Corvin stood before a large hologram of Ryan's ship. Beside him, a thin man in a gray coat smiled slyly. Lieutenant Darren Cole, Ryan's former co-pilot and once his closest friend. Still no signal from Hale's vessel? The Admiral asked coldly. Darren shook his head. No, sir. But I know him. He'll need to refuel soon. And when he does, we'll be waiting. The Admiral turned to him. You served under Hale for years. Why betray him now? Darren's eyes darkened. Because he broke the code. He chose aliens over his own kind. I'll bring him in myself. Back on the Odyssey, Ilara hummed softly, rocking her daughters to sleep. Their names, Lyra and Nira, now echoed through the ship like a lullaby of hope. Ryan entered the cabin quietly. They're getting stronger, he said, smiling faintly. Ilara nodded, though she didn't understand his words. She could feel what he meant. The twins were growing, their faint blue light now brighter than before. Sometimes, when they touched each other's hands, small waves of energy rippled through the air, gentle but powerful. Aura had recorded it several times. Commander, it said, their energy readings are unstable, possibly dangerous. Ryan shook his head. No, not dangerous, just different. He looked at Ilara and her daughters, then whispered, We'll find a home for you, somewhere no one will hurt you again. But destiny had other plans. A few days later, the Odyssey landed at a small neutral trade station on the edge of the Andros Belt, a forgotten place filled with broken ships, smugglers, and mercenaries. Ryan wore a hooded coat and walked through the market cautiously. He had come to trade spare ship parts for food and supplies. He met with a trader, a tall man with cybernetic eyes. You're far from home, human, the trader said. Fuel, food, or secrets? Why, what are you buying? Fuel, Ryan replied. Quietly, the trader smiled. Quiet comes with a price. Ryan handed him a credit chip. You didn't see me. The man nodded. Of course. But as Ryan turned to leave, the trader pressed a hidden button beneath the counter. A small red light blinked once, a signal. The bounty was too large to ignore. That night, Ryan returned to the ship unaware of what was coming. Ilara was feeding the twins when he walked in. Everything's okay, he said softly. We'll leave by dawn. Ilara smiled, just a small, fragile smile, and touched his arm in thanks. For a brief moment there was peace, then the peace shattered, warning. Hull breach detected! The ship shook violently. Lights flashed red. Ryan ran to the cockpit. Outside, a fleet of Terran drones surrounded them. Aura shouted multiple incoming signatures, Terran Authority vessels, and one Virelian ship. Ryan's heart stopped. Both sides in at once. Before he could act, a voice came through the radio, one he knew too well. Ryan Hale, said Darren Cole, calm and cold. It's over. Step outside. Ryan froze. Darren, you? His old friend's voice echoed again. You broke the law. You chose them. You left me behind for monsters. Ryan gritted his teeth. They're not monsters. You are. He turned to Ilara. Take the twins and stay hidden, no matter what happens. She looked terrified, but she obeyed. Clutching her daughters and crawling into the rear chamber, Ryan grabbed his blaster and opened the ship's hatch. Outside, Darren stood among armored soldiers, the Virelian warlord beside him. Two enemies, united by fear and greed. Ryan shouted, You don't know what you're doing, Darren. Those children could change everything. Darren smirked. Exactly. That's why they can't live. Before Ryan could fire, an explosion hit the side of the ship. He was thrown backward, his armor cracking, his head slamming against the floor. Through the smoke, soldiers stormed in. Ilara screamed as they pulled her away, the twins torn from her arms. No, my daughters, she cried in her language, her voice echoing through the metal halls. Ryan tried to crawl toward her, but his vision blurred. He saw Darren's boots stop beside his face. Goodbye, old friend, Darren said quietly, and then kicked him hard. Ryan's world went black. Hours later, Ryan woke up on a barren moon, cold and bleeding. The Odyssey was gone. Only dust and silence surrounded him. He touched his chest. The Terran badge Ilara once held was gone. Everything was gone. He looked at the stars above and whispered, voice shaking, "I promised I'd protect you." Then his eyes hardened. He clenched his fists. "No one hurts my family." He pulled himself to his feet, limping toward the wreckage. The fire inside him, stronger than pain, stronger than fear, began to rise. He would find them. He would fight for them, even if it meant going against the entire galaxy. And so began the legend of the human who would not give up, even when the stars themselves turned against him. The stars above the dead moon glowed cold and distant. Beneath them, a single man crawled through the dust, bloodied, bruised, but alive. Commander Ryan Hale had lost everything. His ship was gone. His friend had betrayed him. The woman and her newborn daughters, taken by enemies who saw them as weapons, not life. Every muscle in his body screamed for rest. But his heart burned like fire. He whispered into the silence, "You took them from me. You'll regret that." Ryan rose slowly, pain cutting through every step, and looked to the stars, his gaze fixed on one, a faint red light pulsing in the distance. The Verilian moon fortress, that was where they had taken Alara and her twins. That was where he was going. 2 weeks later, rumors began to spread across the border systems. A lone human ship had been seen near pirate sectors. A human pilot, scarred and silent, buying illegal weapons and stolen access codes. He called himself no commander now, just Ryan Hale, a man with a mission. He rebuilt a ship from scraps, some black armor, silent engines, hidden weapons. It was ugly but fast. When someone asked what he was hunting, he gave only one answer: Red Fortress. Inside that fortress, Alara sat in a cold glass cell. Her wrists were bound in metal cuffs that glowed when she moved. Her twin daughters, Lyra and Nira, were kept in another room, watched by scientists who whispered in fear of their glowing eyes. Every night, Alara would press her hand against the glass and hum softly, a song from her home. The twins would hear it and glow faintly as if answering her. The guards mocked her. The cursed mother sings to her monsters again. But they didn't understand. Her song wasn't just music. It was a promise. He will come. And he did. On the 13th night, alarms blared through the fortress. Red lights flashed. Sirens screamed. In the darkness outside, something moved, a black shadow cutting through space. Ryan Hale had arrived. His ship pierced the defense grid before anyone noticed. The moment the first cannon turned, he fired, precise, deadly, unstoppable. Explosions tore through the docking bays. Inside, soldiers ran for cover. "What's happening?" shouted one officer. "A human ship." "Just one." "One ship? Against us?" They didn't understand. Ryan wasn't attacking with numbers. He was attacking with rage. He entered the fortress through a broken vent, his armor scarred, his rifle silent. He moved like a ghost, taking down guards one by one. His HUD flickered as Aura's voice came through the helmet, a broken, half-damaged version. "Commander, life signals detected. Too small. One adult." Ryan smiled grimly. "Then they're still alive." He followed the signal down a narrow hallway lined with blue lights. Voices echoed ahead, scientists talking in panic. "The twins' energy is growing unstable. If we can harness it, we can—" Ryan didn't let them finish. A single blast ended the conversation. He stepped into the lab and froze. In the center of the room were 2 small glass chambers. Inside, Lyra and Nira, their tiny bodies glowing with light and fear. Ryan rushed forward and broke the locks. The alarms screamed louder. He lifted the twins carefully. "Hey, it's okay. Daddy's here." The babies blinked up at him, and for a second the light around them flared brighter, warm and pure. The guards burst in. Ryan turned, shielding the twins with his body, firing his weapon with deadly precision. "Warning," Aura said. "More soldiers approaching." "I know," Ryan growled. He ran through the corridor, following the map in his visor, every step echoing with determination. He reached another chamber and then stopped. Behind a wall of energy stood Alara. Her eyes widened when she saw him. "Ryan," she whispered, her voice trembling. He placed the twins down and smashed the control panel. Sparks flew and the field vanished. Alara stumbled forward, tears running down her glowing face. For a moment, they just stared at each other. 2 souls who had crossed galaxies for one another. Then she fell into his arms, sobbing. Ryan held her close. "I told you I'd find you." She couldn't understand the words, but she understood the feeling. Her heart did, but their reunion was short. A deep voice echoed through the speakers. "Warlord Vorak. Impressive, human. You came alone. You think you can defy an empire?" Ryan lifted his blaster. "I don't think." "I know," Vorak laughed darkly. "Then die with them." Doors opened all around them. Soldiers poured in, dozens of them. Ilara shielded the twins as Ryan stood in front of her, gun blazing. But suddenly, something strange happened. The twins began to cry, a soft, harmonic sound that filled the air like music. Light burst from their small bodies, waves of blue and gold, pure energy that rippled through the entire fortress. The walls trembled. The soldiers dropped their weapons, blinded by the brilliance. Ryan turned in awe. The babies floated in the air between them, light shining from their tiny hands. Aura's damaged voice whispered, "Commander, their power. It's merging with your suit." The human armor glowed. The energy from the twins flowed into him, strengthening him. For the first time, human technology and alien power became one. Ryan looked at his glowing hands, then at the soldiers. "Let's finish this," he said quietly. And with that, the legend began. The story of one human who defied the galaxy, not with armies or weapons, but with courage, compassion, and a promise. The warlord's fortress was no longer a fortress, and it was a storm of light. Walls cracked, machines failed, and the air shimmered with power. In the middle of it all stood Ryan Hale, glowing with the energy of the twins. Beside him, Ilara shielded her daughters as their blue-gold light pulsed brighter and brighter, not with anger, but with something purer. Life. The soldiers who had come to kill them dropped their weapons. Some fell to their knees. Others stared in silence, unable to understand what they were seeing. The light from the twins spread through the corridors, touching everything it reached. Machines stopped firing, alarms fell silent, and even the metal itself seemed to hum with warmth. Ryan's voice echoed, low but steady. "No law, no empire, no war can stop what's right." From the control chamber above, Warlord Vorak watched in rage. "Impossible!" he shouted, slamming his fist on the console. "They are just infants." But as he looked closer, he saw the impossible. The twins' power was not just energy. It was connection. Every soldier who had once obeyed him now felt something inside. A strange calm, a sudden clarity. The hate they carried began to fade. For the first time, Vorak felt fear. "End them," he screamed. He ran to the elevator, his armor clanking with every step. But when he reached the chamber, he stopped. Ryan stood there, his eyes burning with a fierce human light. Behind him, the twins floated between Ilara's hands, their glow gentle now, peaceful. Ryan spoke. "This ends now," Vorak sneered. "You think you can stop me, human? I am the law of my world." Ryan shook his head slowly. "Then maybe your world needs a new law." The warlord raised his weapon, a blade of burning plasma, and charged. Ryan moved first. The twins' light flared and energy surged through him. His armor blazed gold. Their weapons clashed, fire against light. Each strike echoed like thunder through the halls. Vorak roared in fury. "You fight for monsters." Ryan blocked another strike and shouted, "No! I fight for life." With one final burst, Ryan struck the ground. The floor cracked. A shockwave of light exploded outward, throwing Vorak across the room. The warlord fell hard, his armor smoking. His blade clattered to the floor. He looked up, weak, terrified, as Ryan aimed his weapon at him. "Do it," Vorak spat. "Kill me," Ryan paused. His finger hovered over the trigger. But then he looked at Ilara, holding her daughters, her eyes filled not with hatred but mercy. Ryan lowered the gun. "No, that's not who we are." Vorak stared at him, confused. Ryan turned away. "Let the light decide." The twins floated forward, their glow washing over the fallen warlord. He gasped as his scars began to fade, his body relaxing. For the first time in his life, he felt peace, not pain. The fortress stopped shaking. The light dimmed. Silence fell, and in that silence, the galaxy changed. Days later, word spread across the stars. The Vorelian Empire had surrendered its weapons. The Terran Alliance had withdrawn its fleet. The story of what happened on the Red Fortress became something more than rumor. It became legend. They called it the Day of Light. No one knew all the details. But everyone knew one truth. A human had defied the law to save an alien mother and her daughters. And because of that one act of compassion, two civilizations began to talk, not fight. Years passed. On a small green planet far from any war, a home stood under twin suns. Ilara watched her daughters, now older, laughing as they played in the grass. Their laughter carried across the field like music. Ryan stood nearby, repairing a small solar panel. His hair was grayer now, his hands rough, but his eyes still bright. When Ilara walked to him, she carried something. His old Terran badge, the one he had given her long ago. She placed it in his hand and said softly, "Home." Ryan looked around, the blue sky, the peaceful land, the laughter of the twins, and smiled. Yeah, home. That night they sat together outside watching the stars. Lyra pointed at the sky. "Papa, is that your world?" Ryan nodded. "That's Earth. It's where I learned to fight. And to care," Nira asked. "And Mama's world?" Ilara smiled, pointing at a distant blue light. "There. Virilia, the cold world that gave us life." Ryan looked at them both and said, "Maybe one day humans and Virilians won't live on different worlds. Maybe they'll share one." The twins looked at each other, then at him. Their eyes glowed softly and they smiled. "Then we'll make it happen," Lyra said. Ryan laughed. "You two just might." As the night deepened, Ilara leaned her head on his shoulder. The stars shimmered above them, thousands of lights filling the dark. Ryan whispered, "Sometimes, being human isn't about where you're born. It's about what you choose to protect." The camera would slowly zoom out, showing the peaceful home under the twin suns, surrounded by starlight, and far away in the records of both worlds, the story would be written forever. He was the human who broke every law, just to keep one promise, and his light changed the stars.